I have on the line with me today Joe Riddle, who is the manager of our professional services department here at Print Audit. And what we are going to be showing you today is something that we have been working on for a long time and are hugely excited to be launching this Wednesday. It is the new version of Facilities Manager. It is actually version 3. And this has been a complete reworking of the alerting system in the software. So it is going to affect everybody as of noon Mountain Time on the 5th, which is this Wednesday. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you from a technical perspective what has changed and how this is going to affect you. So before we do that, take care of a few housekeeping pieces here. Everybody is muted, and you will remain that way. So what we are going to do is that we're going to have you ask your questions through the chat window in GoToWebinar here. What I will do is I will ask those questions of Joe. And if we'd ask that we're staying pretty much on topic, but if there are other questions that you have, we will answer those afterwards if they're slightly off topic. So I'm going to be sort of the moderator on that. The webinar is going to last around about 45 minutes, depending on the amount of questions that we get. We ran the first session of this last week, and there were many, many questions. So don't hold back. Ask all your questions, and we will get through them. So now I hope everybody can see my screen here. I'm just going to start this. So there's three fundamental areas that we've improved for you. There's the supplies fulfillment side of things, there's the service alerting, and there's the automation side of things. So in an ideal world, with the supplies fulfillment side of things, the device usually would tell us, the Print Audit, the Facilities Manager rather, that there's been an alert. That alert would then send an email to your whoever was doing that fulfillment, and out would go the piece of supply. That is obviously a very ideal world of it, as I said, but unfortunately we don't live in an ideal world. So what we typically see is that as soon as the toner cartridge starts getting low, quite often that toner cartridge is taken out and given a good shake, put back in, which of course fools the system into saying, oh well, look, it's got the new toners in, and of course as soon as they start using it, it drops low again, triggering a new alert. What this results in, of course, is multiple cartridges being sent out. So we call this the toner syndrome, shaken toner syndrome. Sorry, having trout bubbles. Now, this is exactly what we have addressed, because what this, of course, does is it creates a huge problem from a extra toner being shipped out and resulting in cupboards full of cartridges. So that's the first area that we're going to address. With the newest system, of course, what people can do is they can shake the toner all they like. It's not going to result in this problem. The second area that we're going to address here is on the service alerting. And of course, this is how prepared are your people when they're going out to your customers. So what we are going to be able to do in the new alerting system is we are going to include the code of the alert that is generated, so that your people are forewarned and then, of course, then forearmed, being able to reduce the amount of time that you're spending going back and forth with your customers. We've also done an automation of this alerting system. So what we are able to do now is we are able to export that alert into an XML feed, which can then go directly into your support system. So you don't have to rely on that human intervention if you don't want to. You can have that directly going into your system. So what I'm going to do is I am going to now pass this over to Joe Riddle, and he will take us through the whole system and show you exactly what's happened. Joe, do you need me to change presenter?
I've got it. Thank you very much, James. I appreciate the introduction and welcome everybody. We're going to start out this morning by showing you the current alert that you have on the existing Facilities Manager website that gives you a couple of things. Number one, I do recommend that you take a look at the Learn More here because it gives you a good overview of the changes that are being made with a real nice website here that tells you this is what's new in the system. Okay. The other thing is on February 5th, 2014, this is what to expect, because when we make the change over to Facilities Manager version 3, it's going to affect everybody. And so you can expect that about an hour's downtime. We hope it's less than that. It will be starting at noon Mountain Standard Time. And please take a look at this information. If you have any questions at all, please get in touch with support@printaudit.com, which is our support team, and we are standing by ready to help you with this major change. Really appreciate your being on the webinar, because what we'd like to do is actually show you what's changed, what's new, and how to use that. So this is the new screen here. And when I log in, the first thing that I want to show you is that we have changed the alerting into its own tab. Remember that it used to be, and it is until Wednesday, under Device Management, we had what we call Smart Alerts. Now we have a new one, a new tab called Alerting. So when you switch to that, one of the first things that I want to show you is a really neat new feature. That is that if you have hundreds of these alerts out there, we hope you have customers that number in the hundreds, and you have sites that you may need to assign these alerts to specific customers, specific sites, specific printer models. You can immediately filter down and look at the alerts that belong to a specific location if you wish. And here I'm using Print Audit as a guinea pig. This is a test site, which includes a couple of devices. Yes.
Is it possible for you to go full screen?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is that better? All right. So what I can do is I can filter down and look at certain locations if I wish, and look at the alerts that are assigned to them. So these filters you're going to find make your job much easier. Of course, this is the only filters, the only alerts that I've set up on these this particular customer. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing is you have something called active alerts, where you can switch over and see which alerts are currently active in the system. You can go back and look at alert history, which means these are previous alerts, so you can go back and see what it's been like for a particular customer, and the filters apply to all of these as well. And a new one called stale data. Instead of having to go to the dashboard and find a particular site that may be stale, or particular devices that may be stale, it's all part of the alerting tab right here. So I'm going to start out, and I'm going to go to Profiles, and we are going to create a new profile. Now keep in mind that I will be stopping periodically to answer any questions that you might put into the question box that's part of the GoToWebinar. So if you have any, please let us know, and James will be watching those, and we'll make sure to get those answered for you. The first thing you have, of course, is the profile name. Now we recommend that when you create this profile name that you make it very specific. And by specific, you can assign this profile to all of your customers and all the devices. You can do it to certain customers. You can do it to certain devices. You can slice and dice this any way you want to. So when you see a list of profile names, it's a good idea to have one that says exactly what that profile does. And in fact, you may create a profile for a particular print device model, and you may reuse that profile for different customers. And again, it's a good idea to go ahead and put in a very descriptive name. So what I'm going to do is create a profile, and what you're going to find is that we really can divide these profiles into 3 different types. Number 1, toner alerts, supplies alerts, so that you can be alerted, especially when you want to order that toner for that customer and get it delivered to them just before they need it. There's no stockpiling either at your location or at the customer side, and everybody gets the toner when they need it. So I am going to create a toner alert first, and I'm going to create it for a specific device. That happens to be a Ricoh copier. And notice that we have a new button called Enabled. In other words, you can create these profiles, disable them, or re-enable them. If you disable them, you haven't deleted it, you still have the information. So you can keep it live, or you can disable it if you want to. Now, the second type of smart alert profiles that we recommend, of course, is going to be service alerts, and I'll show you some of the options on that as we go through all of these conditions. And then the third one is the stale data, so that instead of looking for your particular devices that are stale or sites that are stale, you can actually get an alert on those. Before I go any further, I want to show you one of the very best resources that you have as you look at these new alert profiles, and that is our help screens. If you have any questions at all, these help screens are nothing short of phenomenal because they're extremely well written, they get to the point, and they tell you exactly what you need. So if I go over here to alerting and hit the plus sign, it's going to give you, first of all, an overview. It's going to give you the differences, what's new, and then the differences from the old alerting. And if you're going to create a profile, I highly recommend that you go through here and actually go through step by step and create a new profile. Once you've done this a time or two, you're going to find that we've taken fairly complex conditions and made them very simple and easy to create, and you can assign them to the device, to the site, to the customer, or to all of your customers, however you want to do that. So don't discount the help screens, okay? All right, are there any questions so far, James?
No, we have no questions so far.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to continue here, and notice that I can take this profile, and I'm going to call this a supply alert or toner alert. It is enabled. And what I'm going to do is search across all of my devices and apply it to that. Okay, so this is similar to the old one that we had. I can now add these selected devices. Don't forget to hit the add. Don't say done yet. Once you finish, they're selected. It's all true. Then now I've assigned essentially a Ricoh profile to all the Ricoh devices. Now I can also remove the devices if I wish. In fact, I can do that later. Or I could, if I wanted to, simply apply that to one location. All right, and then a model within that location. So the next thing I want to do, I can do it either one, whichever is going to be best for me. Then I'm going to look at the conditions that I can use. And it pops up, and this is toner low or toner empty. Now low is when the device itself alerts us that as far as it's concerned, the threshold for that toner is below a certain level and it is considered low, and of course when it's actually empty. So that is one of the conditions I want to look for. But I also want to add another condition in that I want to look at this and say maybe toner days remaining. This is an extremely good condition that says, okay, if it normally takes you 3 to 4 days to order and deliver toner to the customer site, you could easily put in here 5 or 6 to allow for weekends or holidays and be alerted ahead of time when that toner is actually going to run out. Let me tell you that how this works is it looks at the cartridge condition. It looks at how many pages are going through that device and using up toner, and it will actually run an algorithm, and it's extremely accurate at predicting when that toner is going to run out. One thing that you do need to know, and this is in the help files, and that is that this toner days remaining does depend on having a actual cost profile attached to the device, because we need to be able to see what the normal yield is for those different cartridges, because it does include that in the calculation. And yes, if you're using extended cartridges, then you would need an actual cost profile for extended. You would need a profile for normal cartridges. If you do that, though, we found it to be extremely accurate. So I'm going to put in 5 days remaining, and that gives me enough time to order toner. I can also add a condition such as percentage available, okay, toner level, and I could say anything less than or equal to 20%. This way, I'm going to be sure to be notified whenever that toner is getting low and I need to order that ahead of time. Okay? James, are there any questions?
Still no. Don't be
Okay.
shy, people.
Oh, wait a minute. I do see one question. Will existing reports and meter imports be affected? And the answer is no. They will be carried over. I believe Dave asked that question, and they will be carried over from the previous to this one. So understand that the existing alerts that you have will also be carried over and translated to the new alerting system, but it would be a real good idea to go in there and review them and make sure they're working still exactly the way you want. Okay. I'm going to add another condition mainly just to show you that you can also look at service conditions. You may not worry about whether or not the door is open, but if you did want to look at jammed, then you might go down here and look at how often it happens. In other words, if it jams continuously for a certain amount, or if it happens 10 times within an hour, maybe there's a problem that you need to worry about. But for supplies, I'm actually going to use when the condition actually occurs. A couple of other service ones that I do want you to see is that we can look at other consumables, maintenance kits, and so on, and these are more along the lines of maintenance that's got to be done to the device. You can't just send this to the customer, but you can send the tech out there with the maintenance kit. A couple of others that you might want to see. No paper you're not concerned about, unless you have somebody on site, of course. Machine alert is a very good one because you can put in a specific code, or the code will be included in the email, or will be included in the XML export to your ticketing system, so that you'll know what the service code that is being thrown by the machine is, and then you can actually look at different groups if you want to. Okay? So we've gotten extremely detailed on exactly what you need to do, especially on the service alerts as well as the supply alerts. Okay? So I'm going to go down to trigger when, and for all of these, I want to do it when the condition actually occurs. You can, of course, look at continuously, it had a certain number of hours, or if it happens consecutively. Now, you can automatically clear the alert when the condition no longer exists. For example, if I use this as toner less than or equal to 20%, and somebody replaces the toner cartridge, well, then it's going to go above 20%, and essentially the system itself, the next time a scan is run on the device and the information collection engine calls home, well, then it actually will clear it for you, which is a pretty nice thing to do. You can also do it by number of hours. For example, if you wanted to wait 4 hours just to make sure the condition doesn't happen again, maybe a paper jam or something like that. Or part of your cycle may be that if you get a toner alert, somebody orders the toner, part of your life cycle as far as ordering it to make sure that you don't order more than once would be that somebody goes in there and manually clears the alert. So I'm going to go ahead and clear it when the condition no longer exists. Okay, are we seeing any questions?
No, now that I'm looking in the right place, no, there's no additional questions.
Great, no problem, thanks. Now, this is new also. Do you want to get notified when the condition actually triggers, okay? Clears, okay, you trigger, clear, and notification setting. Some people like it to happen daily, give me everything from the previous day, 6 o'clock in the morning, and therefore I can go in there and look at it and see what my day looks like, or when it actually occurs. I think that's a pretty nice feature, and it's one that you can fit to exactly what you need to do. And you can choose right here. Maybe you don't want a notification, okay, but you'll actually see the alert in the filter when you look under the Alerts tab. Instead of getting an email, you can do an email, you can do a web post, and here's where an XML file would be sent to a URL, and it would contain all the information in there to where your service ticketing or supply ordering system can interpret the XML file and actually do an automated order or ticket request for you. Okay? So this is a really nice new feature. Check and see if your ticketing system can actually handle a URL. I like the idea of including existing conditions. That way, if you're getting an email about a notification for toner, but maybe another condition is showing on the front panel, you'll get that as well, and it's another way to make sure that nothing gets past you when you're looking at it. Please put in a subject, make sure who you're going to notify, and to be honest with you, I use every single one of these columns to get as much information as possible, depending on if you're using them or not. Okay, James, are there any questions?
Yes, there's two actually. First question is from Frank Nicholas. If RICO at remote is turned on, will this interfere with our reporting?
The answer is probably not. It's extremely rare that RICO at remote and Facilities Manager SNMP would scan at the same time, but of course you would have two different products doing the SNMP inquiry of the print device itself. The short answer is I doubt it. The long answer would be, is IT looking at a lot of SNMP going across their network, and are they aware of it? But I don't think it causes a problem. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, as they're coming in now. Is there any conflict if Print Audit... oh, Steve, that's an interesting typo. Is there any conflict if Print Audit sits on top of another collection agent, i.e. Xerox's Page Pack collection tool?
I don't think it would be an issue. Again, it's very similar to, it's going to use as RICO at remote, and that it's going to use SNMP to query the device to see what condition it's in. So the same answer would apply. I don't think it's a problem. I would be a bit cautious because if you're getting a lot of SNMP traffic, I wonder how your customer's doing with that. Anything else?
Just so everybody knows, Steve spelled sits with an H in it. Another question from Gavin Foster. Can you still acknowledge the alert via email to clear it?
Yes, you can. That option is still available through email, or you can actually log in and clear it. You can actually view it, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Really good questions.
That's it for the moment.
Okay. So who are you going to notify? Well, let's pick Joe, and if I start typing in here and this person exists in the system, well, then they will actually let you go ahead and, okay, let's pick Joe and notify him. Remember, once you put that person in, to click Add. You can add more people. And one of the things that we do recommend here is that if it's a toner or supplies that are being alerted for, that you have a group email for one or more people that are going to be doing the actual toner alerting. And then if it's service, then one or more, maybe a group email to those that would actually be handling dispatch or your service manager to create the ticket to send the service tech out there. But so group emails are great because if one person's on vacation, somebody else either should have access to that or be part of the group email. So I can add as many people as I want to. I can add them specifically based on what I'm actually trying to do here, and I can get very detailed on what I want. Asset number, of course, is a very good one because most of our customer resource management systems will use the asset number to match. Location, if you have that programmed in or reading it from the device. And of course, if you're using these two fields, you can add them as well. And I very much like to add, hey, this happened, it triggered, and here's the current total life count on the device. And I always like to include the LCD text. Okay? Now, we come down here to advanced settings. This allows you to customize some of the levels that are being used to trigger the alerts. Okay? We know that some devices, when the waste toner is at 100%, it means that it's full. On other brand devices, 100% means 100% is available. So you need to know if you're getting false alerts on waste toner being full, and it is showing reverse, all you have to do is click on levels are reversed and it'll report correctly. You can also say, I know that this particular device happens to go stale every 24 hours. I don't want to be notified until it's 48. Or you can do it in as few as 12 hours. Okay? So you can customize that. The other one is that we're presuming that most devices are going to start to report low at 20%. But you can actually set this. So if you know that a particular cartridge is going to show low at 10% or at 30%, you can actually modify this based on your knowledge of those devices. Now, one caution I would give you, and that would be right here, as well as up here when you're setting these conditions, like 20%. Some of the older Ricoh devices only report at 80, 60, 40, and 20%. And some of the older Sharp devices, I think maybe even some of the current ones, will only report at 75, 50, and 25%. So again, if you put 20%, you might not get a notification. So you need to know a little bit about the devices themselves. Now, remember earlier when we talked about the, what do we call that, shaken cartridge syndrome? Where the customers are trying to be frugal, get a little more life out of the cartridge. They'll pull it out. So you've been triggered at 20% that the cartridge is low. They pull it out, shake it, and push it back in. Well, it's extremely rare that the cartridge would go over much more than 25% or so. So what happens is you set this not to trigger that it's a new cartridge in there unless it goes over 40%. Or you could set this at 60%. In fact, 60 is a good number because if they put in a new cartridge, it pretty much is going to be at 60% or higher once it's put in, or you can leave this at 80. So this advanced settings lets you customize this alert to match the devices that you're looking at. Please don't forget to hit save. All right, James, any questions?
Yeah, Bobby Desjardins is asking, will this allow USB-connected devices to give us more info?
Sorry, no. A USB-connected device does not let us query a MIB. In other words, network-attached devices have a MIB on the network that says, I'm a print device. And we have agreements with all of the manufacturers to be able to look at both the public and private MIB. And what we're getting is the machine is telling us that the toner's at a specific level, or that the machine is reporting a specific service code alert, right? So we're able to read that using the network protocol called SNMP. We are not able to do that with USB connected devices. They're locally hosted and do not have a MIB. We are working on trying to improve on that, but you can use Print Audit 6 to monitor the number of pages being sent to a USB device. And if you know that after a certain number of pages, cartridges may run out, you could set up an alert after X number of pages, then it probably needs a new cartridge. But we cannot actually read the device in the way that it is right now. Stay tuned because we're working on trying to improve on that. Really good questions. Okay, any other?
One other from Steve. What does MIB stand for again?
MIB stands for, and that's M Mary I Indigo B Boy, and that's Management Information Base, and it is for network devices, and it's 99.9% of the time, if it has a MIB, it is a print device, and it is a way to use SNMP to query the device and find out its external and internal status. Okay, so if it has a MIB, if it has a MIB, we can read it. If it doesn't, right now we can't. Stay tuned for future developments. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the life cycle. I assigned that particular alert, and what I want to do is show you what an alert looks like. Okay, this is an email generated by the system sent to me, and it says new alert. Okay, first of all, I included the information about the manufacturer, the device, the site, the serial number. It doesn't have an asset, IP, MAC address. This way I can know exactly which device it is. But notice that the LCD text says replace black PCU. So I didn't get an alert on it, but it is part of the system report, so that's why I do suggest that you include that. Now notice that I actually got 2 alerts with 1 notification. The reason I got this is because I set the alert for 20% remaining, and then the machine also says it's low at 20%, so both of those conditions triggered. Okay? Any questions there?
Nope, we're clear.
Okay. So I wanted to show that. And let's go talk a little bit more about the life cycle of an alert. So next thing I want to do, these are the profiles I have, and again I can filter those. But let's go look at active alerts. Again, I can filter by all of them, or I can filter down to a specific location, and to be honest with you, I'm only looking at Print Audit, so that's all that we're going to see right now. Notice that I have an alert that there's a new device. That's a pretty nice one because instead of actually going to your dashboard and seeing this and looking that there's 4 new devices, I can do that directly from alerting, and maybe that alert might go to the salesperson at that particular customer, and they could choose whether they want to track the device or not, and they can view the alert. So here's new devices, okay, and they can acknowledge it right here. All right. So the next thing you want to do is look at alert history. Are there any questions there?
No.
Okay.
Not so far.
All right. So that's pretty straightforward. You acknowledge the alert. You can do it right here. You can do it through the email as well. So let's go look at alert history. I can look at this and say, okay, I've got a new device. Notice that it's still active because I have not cleared that. They're still showing as new device. Once I add them and set a tracking level, the system will automatically clear those. Exactly what happened right here. I can acknowledge that. Nobody needs to look at it. Okay? Also, I can see that these have been acknowledged, but no, this is not active anymore. The system cleared it. But if I want, I can go view the alert. And if I wish, I can even do a printable view. I think that's pretty nice because then you can actually look at it, print it out, give it to whoever needs it, and here is the date and time of the actual alert, so that you can go back and look at the history and see what the system told you. Okay? So alert history gives you the current status. Now we can look at stale data. What I like particularly about this is I can choose to find devices. All I have to do is click Find, and it tells me this particular device is stale. And of course, if I click on it, it brings it in, hasn't been reported, and here was the last time that it called home or talked to the MIB. Actually, that the information collection engine was able to actually talk to it. Okay, so if I go back to stale data, I can see that. It tells me right there this was the last time. I can also look for all sites that might be stale. I actually only have a few. Oh, sorry, that's print audit. I want to do all. And let's go find the sites. Well, these haven't called home. And obviously this one isn't going to call home because it's been since September, but also this one since the 26th of January. So about a week out, maybe I need to go find out what's wrong with the information collection engine at that particular location. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you, are there any questions, James?
Yes. Roberto is asking, will ICE be available for a Mac in this release?
Unfortunately, no. We have not developed ICE for Mac, but remember that if you put ICE on, you can even put ICE on a window virtual that's running on a Mac, and as long as SNMP is available on the network, we can still query all of the devices on the network, even if the all of the workstations are Mac. So there is a way to use it now. It just does require one Windows workstation at the location. And of course, please make sure that it is a location that's running all the time. Therefore, you won't be getting a bunch of false stale site notifications. You know, people tend to turn it off at night or over the weekend. Again, you don't want to get stale notifications. Good questions. Any others?
That's it for the moment.
Okay. One other thing that I'd like to show you, and I believe we covered everything here. Again, don't forget the help screens. They will give you a list of many of the notifications, okay, creating step by step. Who should it trigger? How should it trigger? You can clear when. You can look at the notifications. Set that up any way you want. And here's an actual sample of the XML format that would be sent out. Also in the help screens are the most common, a list, quite extensive list of the most common alert codes that you might want to use for alerting on specific codes, and you can use that in XML or the actual codes themselves. One other thing that I've done to make this even more useful is I have modified a dashboard view so that I edited the view and added a condition called Smart Alert Profiles. So what happens is I can actually go to Print Audit. I can look at PA Texas. Shows me the devices, and there's my new ones. And I can actually see what alerts are attached to each of those devices. Okay? For example, I have the MPC 3000 alert assigned to an Epson. I probably should go in there and remove it from that device. But do I need to assign it to the rest of the RICO devices? Yes. And especially if this one MPC 3000 applies to these other models, I would then change the name of the alert, call it exactly the different models, and that way I can see that all of them work the same way. So that's a good example of exactly how it would work, and you can see it right from your dashboard. All right, that's a quick overview. I do recommend that you take a look at the help files, play with it, and remember that on Wednesday the 5th, at noon Mountain Standard Time, everybody will be transferred over. Their existing alerts will go into the new system, but I do recommend that you look at both the notification as to what to expect when the change happens and what the new features are, and then go in and see how they were transferred over. If you have any questions or problems or have anything at all that we can help you with, please contact support@printaudit.com, and of course you've got our phone number if you need to call in. James, any questions?
No, there's no other questions at the moment. Oh, wait a minute.
Okay.
There is one now. Oh, there's a couple.
Good.
Will Print Audit automatically change itself at the customer's location?
Yes, in other words, whenever the customer logs in, depending on the privileges you've given to them, they'll be able to see the alerts as well. Yes, this change does take effect for everyone, so that would be true. Mm-hmm.
And this from Carl. Do we need to change the ICE polling times during the upgrade?
The answer is no. That will not need to be changed at all. We will simply go offline. We expect it to take an hour. Actually, I think it'll take less. And then we'll come back online, pick up all of the ICE communication that's happened while we were offline. There will be nothing you need to change. However, depending on what you're doing with the alert profile and how frequently you want to be looking for these conditions, you might change the refresh for the information collection engine. In fact, let me go over there. I'm going to go to Administration, Customers. I'm going to My Site, and I'm going to look at the information collection engine. Notice that I have this set for 30 minutes, which is the shortest interval, and that's because I am using this for demonstration purposes, and I want to get the alerts as soon as possible. So every 30 minutes it goes out there and checks the current condition of that particular device, of all the devices that it's aware of. If you're not assigning alerts or you don't need to poll as frequently, the default is 60 minutes, or you could do it 720 minutes is twice per day. Set it whatever you want to, but the change will not affect that. Good questions. Any others?
Yes, this from Bobby. Will it create some customers' downtime?
Yes, it will. The site itself will not be available for approximately an hour as we are changing over to the new system. So I don't know, you might want to send an email to your customers or be prepared to answer questions. But again, we want to keep that change as short as possible, but it is a major upgrade to our system. We're quite proud of it, so we will take about an hour to make that change over. Good questions.
One other thing that, that's a few questions, but one thing perhaps I'd ask you to just touch on is the time stamping.
The time stamping, very good. You will notice that whenever you set up a site, that you set it for the time zone that you need that site to be in. So that time stamping is set by the time zone that you put in here. By default, I'm trying to remember what it is. In fact, I'll just set up a new customer real quick and call it test. All right, International Timeline West is the default, minus 12 hours. So you might want to go in there and review and make sure that that customer site is in the correct time zone so that when you get a notification, it will be the correct one that you need. Good question.
I was also talking about the timestamp on the alert itself so that we can start to monitor the service levels.
Yes, it is sent, and here's the timestamp that it was sent. It's actually on the email itself. I'll also show you that if we go to alerting and you look at the alert active alerts, which you can view, first of all, the alerting is right here. This is actually when the alert was triggered, when it was sent. You can view it, and it'll tell you everything there, and you can actually print the alert itself, which also gives you the timestamp. So again, that site does need to be set at the correct time, and you need to know when you get it.
And it will also give you the timestamp on when it's cleared, correct?
That is correct, yes.
So what this means is that when you, so what you are able to do is to, if you start tracking that, you'll be able to see whether or not you are performing to your service level agreements. So
absolutely.
If you have a 4-hour turnaround on your service level agreement, you can look your customer in the eye and prove it to them, saying this is why. Interestingly, you can also do this for competitors' devices as well, so that you'll be able to show that perhaps your competitor, when you're looking to renew in there, is not performing to their service level agreement, and use that as ammunition to dislodge them.
That is perfect, and you can see right here that this was acknowledged at 2:22 on January 29th. Notice it triggered again, and that was because I was playing with the device and then replaced the toner cartridge. The other thing too is, just like James says, you can monitor and see in one of the conditions that you can do in the profile itself. Okay, so let's look at this toner alert. You can add a condition of tell me when a new cartridge was put in. Okay, cartridge change is going to use these advanced settings down here. If it hits over 80%, guess what? It's no longer low, and it's a new cartridge, and you will get an email with a timestamp as well. So if somebody calls you and says, well, we haven't gotten our toner yet, you can actually drill directly down to that site, look at the alert, and say, yeah, it was changed out yesterday at 2:22 p.m. Of course, we can't tell you who did it, but we know that it was actually changed out.
There's another question, Joe, here. Will this downtime affect our dealers' customers' ability to print?
Not at all. Do you mean during the downtime? Not at all, because all we're doing is querying the devices with SNMP, and the information collection engine will not simply be able not to report during the downtime, but it does not affect the devices at all. Good question. Mm-hmm.
I believe that's it. If anybody has any last questions, please enter them now. Well, otherwise, any questions that come in after this, we will be happy to answer on an individual basis. Joe, was there anything that you wanted to cover still?
No, that's pretty much it. I do highly encourage everyone to use the help screens. They're extremely good. It's answered so many questions for me. But also, support at printaudit.com. We'll have a whole team during the transition to make sure that your questions get answered and that you stay up and, making money.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Your attendance is greatly appreciated. And if there's anything we can do for you guys, all you have to do is reach out, and you will get the same level of service as you've come to expect. Thank you, Joe, and thank you, everyone.
James, thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Keep in touch. Thank you.